When I first joined politics, my daughter was in primary school. Sometimes they will get unkind comments also like, hey, actually, I don't like your father.
Oh my God.
Do politicians struggle with mental health issues? This is your daily Ketchup. Good morning, Singapore! Big news, big news! We have Minister Chan Chun Sing here with us today.
Very nervous.
I don't know whether you're nervous or I'm nervous.
Minister Chan is one of the spokespeople for the Better Together campaign, which PAP has just launched to talk about mental health and issues surrounding that. And so we are very lucky to have him with us today to have a conversation about his personal life as well as like his involvement in the campaign.
Woo! Yes. Also, he's the Minister of Education.
That's right.
Thank you for reminding me.
So I'm kind of curious, like on a personal level, right? As an MP, right, do you feel lonely? Because a lot of the stuff that happens at work, right, you probably cannot go home and like tell people that kind of stuff, right? So then,
of course,
how does that?
we also human, right?
I feel like everybody can't make friends with you, all got agenda, which makes sense, lah. The world is transactional to a certain extent.
To some extent, people are transactional, but we try not to discourage ourselves by having such a cynical view, because there are also people who genuinely want to help people and they come. So I think part of our job is also to find out who are those who are genuine and who are those who are maybe transactional. Right? Okay, having said that, I'm not saying that the transactional one you shouldn't do, because some people they start off being quite transactional. Then after a while, it's also our job that when they come and volunteer, that we also try to inspire them. Then they find that actually quite meaningful beyond the transactional part of it. Then they stay on and help. So that's also a good possibility.
How do you handle the pressure though? Because like in your position as a minister, whenever good things happen, you have to give credit to your team. But whenever bad things happen, you have to take it on as your own responsibility. So it's almost like win you don't get the credit, and then lose you take all the responsibility.
But that's our karma. The success comes from the teamwork rather than what it is. You know, in our line of work, success or anything of that kind comes many years later. You know, when I was in MSF, you say that, you spent 3 years in MSF. What's your greatest achievement? Is it because you set up the social service office? Is it because you helped this? I said, frankly speaking, I don't know. If we have been successful, maybe 10 years later, when the child who come from the broken family grow up already, then now he or she feels a bit more confident. Okay, to us that is success. But you tell me now, just because I do this, I do that, or my team did this, my team did that, it doesn't say anything. Especially like now in MOE, you must have some conviction of what you do. Because like what we say, right? How do we know whether the child learned well or not? The success is not whether he or she did well in the first 15 years of her schools, right? His or her school. The success is really after school, the next 50 years, whether they continue to learn, continue to do well. So if we are overly taken by all this here and now comment, then every day you don't know what you're going to do. So I try, although I say it sounds quite easy, right? It's very hard to do because we are all human beings, right? So every day people ask you, hey, why you like that one? Hey, why you say this? Why you do that? Then every day you will get this kind of thing, right? So people
like your family got like
my family was like, why you like? No, my family is not why you do this. It's like, why do you even have to do this? Because it's like...
That's why I ask every minister I meet, why you want to do this?
So, because your family, they're also human beings, right? We all got children, got wife, got mother, right? Then, supposing that you are the mother, right? Then you look at your son or your daughter, it's like, hey, I brought up my son and my daughter.
And they did well in life, right?
And they could have done many things. Then why you want to subject yourself to this kind of thing? Then why you want... which mother or father like the son or daughter to be made fun of by other people? Which wife like to see the husband go around and kena scolded or kena make fun of by other people? Especially when they do all things with the best intention. Or whose children will want to go to school and say, hey, your father like that one, your mother like that one.
But did it happen though? They
will get some of this because at different ages. So when I first joined politics, my daughter was in primary school already. My son at the time was not in school yet. My second son was not in school. My third son was not born yet. It depends on the school, but they will know, they will make, sometimes they will get unkind comments also like, hey, actually I don't like your father.
Oh my God.
Like, wow. Or sometimes they tell you, hey, my father say, and the friend, my father say he doesn't like your father. Then, as a child, it's like, It's like,
Yeah, lor.
what has that to do with me and you, right? We are friends, and
Also, nobody asked lah.
so or you go to school, it's like then the child do well, then it's like, you ministers,
Right.
children, right? Sure do well one, right? Then you don't, if they don't do well, you minister children, you also.
But someone now you MOE, they triple stress.
Oh yeah.
Like since we're on this topic, right? Like there was quite a big incident that happened sometime back, which was the River Valley High, the whole situation, right? And with the incident, mental health amongst children and like our youth and all that became a very big topic. Like when the incident happened, I'm actually curious to know like how did you break that down or address that with your children?
You know, when we first got the news that it happened on that day, it's quite shocking to the whole teaching community. So our first priority is not so much as to, what are we going to tell our children? Or our first priority as the MOE team was to make sure that we go onto the ground, help to stabilize the situation, because all the teachers in River Valley were running around to try and calm the students, take care of the students, because it's quite fast, right? So first you must make sure that the safety of the students in schools are okay. Then you must make sure that they let their parents know it's okay. Then we must make sure that the rest of the schools are okay. That means they remain calm, because you don't want people to panic. Now, one of these things about whether is it suicide or whether is it such an unfortunate incident, one of the things that MOE is always worried about is what we call copycats incident.
Right.
So on that day, we try to make sure that we calm everybody, assure everybody, take care of everybody, and so forth. But the next day was actually a public holiday, so we also have to swing into action to brief all our principals and teachers how to manage, because even though they are not in River Valley, doesn't mean that they are not affected, no? Because there'll be students, there'll be teachers who might be shocked and fearful. At the same time, we need another effort to make sure that we take care of both families. I think a lot of people thought that naturally we'll take care of the victim's family, which of course we do, and we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that they are given the best support. But we forget that actually the perpetrator's family also need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And also I was quite sometimes maybe hurt that people started pointing fingers and making, I suppose, presumptuous statements about what should be done, what should not be done to the student and to which family and things like that. So we try not to take that kind of stance. For us, both families need to be supported.
Right.
Both families having to grapple with very, very different issues, and we cannot say that just because one family is hurt, then the other family we don't take care of. It's not like that. Having stabilized that in the first phase, then the next phase I think is where everybody in our system have to understand that sometimes things like that happen, sometimes very unfortunate things happen, very tragic things happen. Then how do we move forward? Not just individually, how do we not just cope individually, how do we cope as a community, and yet at the same time do not swing to the other extreme. Because for example, so there were some suggestions, okay, next time everybody go to school must have back checks. They say, wow, if you do that you might end up triggering another set of issues. Can you imagine, last time we all go to school, we believe that the school is a safe place, we make friends, we learn, then suddenly you go into this place like a fortress like that. Then how would our children react psychologically? Then it might cause even more issues. So whatever we do, we have to make sure that it's quite measured.
Yeah.
So it's not just like reactionary policies.
Not reaction. And then the question is that whether it's sustainable.
Yeah.
You see, we cannot be like something happened, then we have a knee-jerk reaction, and then it's not sustainable. Then it creates all kinds of expectations which might not be fair going forward. So I would say that even until today, we will always remind ourselves to first never take things for granted. Then if things unfortunately happen, then we must deal with it as a team calmly to reassure people and make sure that whatever happens, we learn something from it and we move on from there.
Right.
So even until today, we are continuing to support the families involved, the schools involved, and thankfully the vast part of the students, I think they have moved on a bit. Recently, I asked the school what has happened to the site of the incident. Thankfully, they have they come up with a plan. They have converted the place into something that try to minimize the memories, and yet bring out something positive from that. So these are all part of the healing process.
Yeah.
Has this incident like paid a special attention towards like mental health for the students?
I think it has certainly highlighted the need for us to take this mental health issue together. Maybe in that sense, there's a bit of a silver lining that more people are paying more attention to some of these issues.
Yeah.
And that is why I think even on the PAP, the party side, we launched this Better Together campaign. And on the MOE side, we also continue to intensify the efforts. Is it because before this, I think maybe people tend to think of mental health like, are you okay? You're not okay. It's a binary thing, black, white, kind of thing. But I never see mental health in that sense. To me, it's a spectrum. All of us at different points in our life, even at different points in the day, sometimes we are a bit better, we are swinging a bit. So that's one perspective. So we want to let everybody know that, don't be judgmental and say that okay, not okay, and don't be complacent that I'm okay, not okay, because all of us can move between this spectrum. The second thing that we want to let people know is that actually all of us feel certain stresses in different stages of our life, and you don't have to be shy about it, and don't think that we are the only one facing it. So whether is it students got their own stressors, even ministers got minister stressors. Every one of us needs somebody to talk to and can reach out to somebody. And yet at the same time, all of us also can reach out to help somebody else. Even in MOE, I always say, I also need my buddy, so my buddy is Maliki because he's my second minister.
So we know who's the BF.
He was my buddy.
Gotcha.
Dr. Maliki, can you come on the show?
I think he should come on the show. He's also very fun.
So what's this Better Together movement? What are y'all doing?
So we want to make sure that to send the message that mental health is not a binary concept. In fact, I would say that it's more like a fitness concept. Every day, if we train a bit, every day we stretch ourselves a bit, we can keep improving. Then the second thing, very simply, is that you're not alone. Okay, all of us have our stressors. All of us will face different challenges, but all of us can also help people. So that we have build this community of support, so that you're never alone. This is not Liverpool's motto, but you make sure that people feel that if I need help, there's someone that I can reach out to, and even if I do need help, I can be the someone to reach out to someone. And if we can just achieve this very basic understanding, right? Actually, many of the smaller issues we can handle in the community without overloading the psychiatrists or the clinical intervention, because that was really the high end whereby really people need professional help. But it's really at this level. Most of the time, if you look at us, right, we don't first thing go and ask and see psychologists or therapists, right? Our first port of call is usually people whom we trust, our friends, our family, and we want to equip the so-called friend circle, the family circle, with some of this what we call basic first aid to allow people to help reach out to one another.
So there's this survey that was done by Reach, right, that talk about how youths that are aged between 13 to 30 still feel like there's a very strong stigma when it comes to seeking help, and so they're still very uncomfortable with it. And so with the Better Together campaign, right, it's pretty much the first time that any politician has come out and talked about mental health in their personal capacity as well, even if it's not in that much specifics. So I'm wondering, is it seen as a weakness for a politician to be talking about their mental health struggles, right? And because if leadership thinks that, right, then does it not trickle down to let other people think that maybe this is not normal, this is also a weakness, and therefore I cannot show it, I'm uncomfortable seeking help for it?
I don't think it's a weakness. I think we are all human beings, right? We all have our ups, we all have our downs, right? But whether is it an individual weakness, even if you say it's an individual weakness, I'm not too concerned. Because in Singapore, we work as a team, and we all recognize that sometimes we are up, sometimes we are down, but so long as the team is able to play football, cover each other's back, then we are okay.
No, but to a certain extent, for example, let's say PM had anxiety attack yesterday,
right?
He's not going to say it, man. He's not going to say it in a speech. I mean, in the spirit of normalizing this, right? His hands is a bit tight also. Then he cannot say, guys, when COVID hit, I had anxiety attack. Then the whole country will panic.
But even if one of us have anxiety, right? Whether is it PM or anybody, but actually you can draw strength. Also, that's also part of the message. When you are in a team, you don't feel so alone, Because if I tell you that, hey, you're in charge of the whole COVID, you should stress out one, right? But if I tell you that...
That's why I got task force.
That's why you say that, okay, don't worry, we all cover each other bases. One of us may be down, but the whole team won't be down. Then you feel that, okay, the pressure is not all on you, right? So whether is it in the ministry or is it in the multi-ministry task force or whether as a cabinet, as a leadership team, the joy of it is that you know that you are not alone. You know that you cover each other's back so that together we give the best face possible to the world as representative of the country. But there's also another part which we hope is that people can build a community of support, a circle of support, so that when really something happens or before something happens, you are in this community, you don't feel so alone. I think we need people to understand that, okay, all of us are not alone. If we need help, there's help. And we can also give help. And sometimes the ability to give help is very important. So we don't feel useless. So I always say that, when I visit my residents, I always tell them, no matter how poor you are, or no matter how down you are still capable of doing something for someone else. And that actually builds up a lot of confidence and pride.
Perhaps due to you feel useless or you feel like your existence don't matter to anyone, and sometimes to help other people is to help yourself.
Yes. So that's exactly it. You see, you don't want someone to go into this state that life is all downhill from here. I'm totally useless. Nobody
your existence
respect
don't matter.
me. I don't matter.
Very nihilistic.
Whereas if you tell people this,
once in a while you use a big word.
But you see, once you make someone feel that actually I can be of value to someone, I can help someone, it's quite transformational.
The newer generation, right, they are born into this world. Like I feel like for us, a lot of we grew up without internet, then we got it, and then we had social media, we acquired it. So I feel like maybe there's a bit more of a unique balance that we can appreciate with life. But for the younger generation, they are born into it. The moment they are born, they see all this, and this is part of their life already. So it's very normalized for them, and the way they perceive it is slightly different. So my question is, I kind of had a bit of an awakening when it comes to mental health in my late 20s. But it would have been so much more useful if I was introduced to these concepts and these ideas earlier in my life.
So now in schools, we try to introduce it consciously, intentionally in the earlier years. But we don't say that, okay, this is a mental health lesson, because then people might just switch off, right? But we try to do it as a practice. So for example, now we say that every start of the school term, we do a check-in. Check-in meaning that you just talk about what do you do for the holidays, then you check whether people are okay, not okay, people are stressed, not stressed.
One-on-one or like as a class?
As a class. Then from that, the first triage. Then after that, the teachers will try and see that, okay, who are those people who might need a bit of help. So this one is a bit of a relation building also. So I think
them part of a teacher now.
Yeah, they have to read body language.
It's really difficult because you need to know every child. The social emotional balance even before you start teaching anything.
Correct.
In fact, the academic subject is the least of the worry if we can get the social emotional side. Otherwise, you just try to pump the social the academic side. The child won't have even a basis to start with. Like some children, they come to school. You look at them, you know that
something off.
Something is off already. Last night looks like a mess or disaster. Outside school, at home, or something must have happened. So you go to class and try and okay, today math is like that. Won't go in one. Whereas in fact, the first thing we probably need to do is that okay, you want to share yesterday anything happened. I think it has always been that sense of responsibility that our teachers have. I don't know.
It evolved it was not instituted.
No, but maybe the expectations have heightened. Anything.
But doesn't it feel like teachers are taking on more and more to the point whereby the point of going to school sometimes, which is like to teach and for students to learn, that part becomes a little bit grey. Then because if we MOE or like teachers start taking that on, right, then there's some level of accountability. Like in the past, in the primary school that we grew up in, our mental health was never the responsibility of the school. If you are mentally unsound, probably your parents. Fair enough though. Right.
I won't say that last time the teachers didn't bother with the emotional health. Last time, maybe like what you mentioned, the topic was not so often discussed. So, and maybe today, because everybody busy, right? So everybody hopes that the teachers and the schools will do more. And indeed, the teachers and the schools have done more. But that's where the partnership comes in, you see. Because whatever we do to help the child in the school is about maybe 8 hours, 10 hours in the school. Then, but beyond
This
that,
is
they
a long
spend,
bloody time though.
but beyond that,
Walao.
they actually spend more time outside the school. So without the partnership with the parents, right,
Yeah.
you can't get the thing done. Otherwise, the whole thing get unwind, you see.
How do we? Yeah, sorry. First of all, I really need to pee. Okay,
Yeah.
but I just want to say my question. Then you give me 2 minutes to pee. Okay, but I want to say my question before I forget. Right? How do we straddle making mental health a priority yet still continue to build resilience and a tough people? I feel like that's something that I would think about because right now you look at maybe if this stage of Singaporeans right had to build Singapore, maybe this mental health situation could have built Singapore because you needed tough people that says suck it. Okay, I need to pee.
And on that note,
But what John actually mentioned is a continuum. It's not really like, okay, resilience and mental health is not the same. If we can better prepare our people and they become stronger, then of course they are less likely to get into trouble or less likely to get into this kind of stressful situation. But that doesn't mean that it won't happen. But as a society, how do we prepare our people? Actually, part of it is that when our children are growing up, right, do we overly protect them? Do we let them go and try? And sometimes by making small mistakes or experiencing some small failures, it helps to build up that resilience. But if we try to overly structure their life and take away all uncertainties and untidiness from their life, then maybe they are strong but fragile.
Yeah.
They are very good at what they are doing, but something happens. But I suppose that's the dilemma for many parents, right? That we all want the best for our children. But saying that we want the best doesn't mean that we should therefore not allow them to experience any setbacks in life, you see. Because there will be some setbacks in life for all of us, right?
Yeah.
And as parents, we can never prevent any setback throughout their whole life because we can't be with them for ever and ever, right?
Yeah.
So,
Sorry,
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. So,
Nobody to be. I cannot believe it.
We continue without you.
yeah.
and we got a pretty good answer also.
Yeah.
Answer already. We were rolling the whole
Just
time.
for the whole
But it's okay, we have continuity because we have you leaving and then continue.
You can watch the episode to find out the answer.
Later you will watch the episode.
Ask again the same question. What is my question?
Some children, right, you need a much more affirming attitude, right? They get very scared, they lose confidence, then they just spiral downwards. Then if you keep scolding them, they will just keep spiraling downwards. Some other children, they are tougher. They say that, oh, you have not reached the standard. Then they will say that, oh, I aspire to reach the standard. I will prove to you.
Yeah.
So it depends on the
Right.
character of the person.
Wow, parenting so difficult.
Actually, that's very interesting. I think it was something about my mom that I never realized.
Yeah.
Because for me, right, like when I got my score, then my mom was like, basically, it's go to the school that makes her look the best amongst her friends.
Yeah.
Right? But then after that, when it came to my brother, who he scored like slightly lower than me, right? But then the choice that she made was to put him in the school where he is like the upper like.
So maybe
bench.
probably your mom thinks that you are the fighter type. Okay, never mind. You may put me where I'm at the bottom, right? I will fight my way up. I will prove to you.
But in the end, she quit school.
Maybe that's your character, right?
Yeah,
You know,
I
because-
quit school.
Just to close off the story, she quit school.
No, but it all depends on the environment that you best thrive in. That's why so sometimes I always get very worried when some parents say that I want my child to go to this school or that school.
You took out the child out of the equation because the important part is to actually identify what motivates them.
What motivates the child?
needs do they have.
So recently I was on another Facebook Live. So someone said that this school is a good school. Then I said, yes, I agree with you. This school is a good school. But I want to ask you, is this school a good school for your child? It's a different question because whether your child will
I thought you were gonna say, but every school is a good school. Then I will roll my eye on.
actually our aim is to make sure that every school has something distinctive.
Right.
Okay,
Okay. I almost roll again.
It's very difficult. Actually, I challenge all my school because when I go for all my school visits right now, every other day, because after a while you cannot keep telling the minister the same thing, right?
Correct.
So
You also have to understand their stresses. How
I also need to understand.
Yeah.
But I just want to tell them that actually, no point competing on the same thing because your students are different. Okay, your students are different. So recently I went to Changi. They have a very unique program, aerospace.
Oh damn! No one saw that coming.
Do you know that inside the school they got a aerospace simulator?
Because it's at Changi,
Right.
near Changi Airport.
No, because they have
Changi
one
is not even
alumni.
Changi.
Oh,
They have one alumni who actually now work in I think SIA engineering.
Oh,
Right.
So and then they managed to get a group of people to come back and interest the students on all things aviation. So some schools can be very good at football, some schools can be very good at basketball. Some of them are on this hydroponics farming. They all decided that they want to do this because it's part of this green environmental sustainability. So some of them go very deep into this.
Maybe some of them have a giant group chat. Then they say, I already tell minister this, so you don't say this. Then after they go down, hydroponics farming.
If they do that, actually it's very good because you see, I have more than 300 schools now. Every school to find something unique according to their strength. If they can really find that, wow, number one.
I choose school based on which one nearest to my house.
That's also very practical.
I'll be damn sian to be forced into hydroponics.
I mean, we all very
Can you
practical.
just focus on math for everybody?
My primary school is 5 minutes from. My primary school is just next to my house. When the first bell ring, ding dong, then first bell ring, then go down lah. Then sure, be there.
Wow, best.
I feel like if you live very close to something, right, at least for people like me, the higher chance you will be late.
Yes,
correct.
Because you wake up later and later, then you
It's
overestimate.
okay, but you always got 2 bells, ma. The first bell ring, you make sure that you zoom.
This is why you minister lah. My first bell is the alarm clock.
He knows shower.
Save
Chinese
time,
people don't.
save money, ma.
Last time in primary school, before you go school, you got shower. Secondary school.
Secondary school, we all very early in the
Yeah
morning.
lor. So no right. We are practical people. I also don't. Because you shower right before you sleep. Then you wake up and go school
No, so before sleep is need to wash hair. When you wake up in the morning, you don't need to wash hair.
Guys don't think about wash hair, don't wash hair though, I think.
You know hair.
Yeah, no.
Sibuk Uncle Raymond show.
Last time when I was in primary school, I decided to keep my hair short just like you because save a lot of time.
Exactly.
Don't need
Save a lot of time. Don't need to buy comb also. Don't need to buy comb.
I go NS, I also start my hair on the morning.
The orange color comb.
Which is the weapon, right? Then they make you cut away the end.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's this orange color comb with very sharp tip.
Yeah.
Then the Abeng will use it as weapon, which is a very intimidating weapon.
She doesn't know what you're
She
talking
doesn't
about.
know. She's like 20.
You don't corrupt her.
Yeah. Don't try and teach her.
What's your sense of the people? Are people
More open to it.
more open to talking about it?
At least for me, I think in the last 1 or 2 years, I feel like there has been a genuine shift, at least in my circles. I think before this, I would have been quite ashamed to say that I went for therapy, for example. But I think it's become a lot more open where we have normalized the conversation. If I were to tell people, I went for therapy, it wouldn't even be a blink or like or reaction. It's just normal. And I think more people feel that it's a thing that they can do now. Where I think the perception has shifted is that while people are more comfortable hearing about going for help and counseling, I think there's still a subset of people who feel that it's not for them, that they are stronger than they actually need to actually go for these things, even though it may actually help them.
But that's why I think we also want to have how you call that
Like, don't.
change the thing, because nowadays when people say that they go for help, right, they always think of the therapists, psychologists. Then they always end up, we don't have enough resources, because it's true. If everybody go for the psychologist and the therapist, sure not.
It's like COVID, right?
So we need to help people triage. So the first level is what John said. How do we help people strengthen resilience? Then how do we help people help their peers? Then how do we help people help their families? Then not everything need to go to the psychologist or the therapist unless you really need clinical intervention.
Right.
And that's where I think we need help to get this message across. First, I think it's very binary, like I got trouble or I got no trouble. Then the I need help means only one kind of help. And if I don't need help, actually it's not like that, because there's a certain spectrum of help provided and a certain spectrum of help needed. So it's how to right side match people accordingly. Otherwise, when there's a mismatch of resources, always not enough.
Yeah, speaking on that, right, I actually had a quite interesting conversation with my friend regarding like the cost of going for therapy. So I think it's the common perception is that it's too expensive for me. I go for one time, right, it's like $100, $200, right? If I want to go for a private one. Yeah, so then my friend studies psych. Yeah, so then I asked, right, like, is it not very ironic or in a sense very unfair that something that is so needed, right, it should almost be like a public health kind of thing, right, that everybody has access to it for a much lower price, but they're charging so much for it. But at the same time, it's because they've gone through 10 years of studying in order to be able to share that expertise and use the expertise to help you. Then where is that? How do we find that balance?
So that's really the really professional part of the cycle, right?
Yeah.
So I learned one thing from Dr. Maliki, because he was previously a social work, right? We think of providing help means the very professional one. And then we think of people helping means I must give you a solution. Actually, Dr. Maliki, when I saw him share with the other students, one of the things I learned from him is that he doesn't necessarily say that, okay, you got a problem, right? Let me try and help you solve your problem. In fact, he says that sometimes it's counterproductive because you take away the chance for the person to learn to solve their own problem.
Right.
So in fact, for him, the first triage and the first way he said, don't need to do anything. You just listen. Just learn to listen and don't, oh, you got a problem. Let me tell you how. Actually, when you say, let me tell you how, you have not empowered the person, you know. Whereas his way is, okay, you say you got problem, we listen to your problem, then we discuss whether there are ways that we can cope. Is ways, then slowly, what are your options? Then it becomes, you know, from how we all can cope, how you can cope. Then you allow that person to say that, I can take charge of it. Then after they settle the problem already, then the person say, hey, actually, the only easy day was yesterday. I done it, no? I've been there. Whereas the other way is that, I tell you I got a problem. Okay, I tell you, you do this. Then the next time the person face the same problem again, right? Will the person say that, okay, I know how to manage? Or I go back to the same thing? Then it's quite interesting. A lot of time people all jump to the conclusion that this person got trouble, we must go and send him to some psychiatrist and some social worker and whatnot. That may not always be true. That may not always be true. Sometimes people just need to
rent.
Just to rent, just to know that someone else is prepared to
help.
Listen.
And sometimes just to know that, hey, actually I'm not alone. He also got same problem. He also got same problem.
Yeah, sometimes to area or even to hear yourself gives you a better clarity.
So there are different coping strategies.
So that means, like, with regards to like parenting, right, and with your own children, right, like will you not send them for like therapy, for example, or any specialized like these kind of services, right?
I mean, if they really need it, then of course we see what kind of help they need, and then we provide the appropriate help. So it's not whether we send or don't send. It depends on what they need at that point in time. When my daughter was doing gymnastics, I mean, because it's competitive, so you also have a lot of stresses and strains, right? So is it considered professional help? Because the coach will help them to learn coping techniques, how to manage the stress of the competition, how to prepare themselves. So there are different levels of help required.
It's more about creating that funnel so that we're not like over using the resources that are available.
Yeah, you use the right resources for the right level of that's required.
Do you feel like in your busy schedule, you've become as present a father you want to be?
As a father, you will always hope to have more time with your children, right? You will never say that, okay, enough, okay, now it's my time. You don't have this sort of thing.
Really?
You will try to
like 2 hours in now. Whoa, way too long.
You try to spend as much time with your kids. So I mean, like for us, I mean, even we are all busy, we got work. So when we go and do our own exercise, so after we put the kids to sleep, then so I do my exercise in the middle of the night. Because
Then the neighbor sleeping, doing burpees.
No, I usually
both of you to assume he lives in an apartment.
I usually go and jog or walk, or I usually go and cycle, so don't disturb people, right? But you try to preserve and protect the maximum amount of time for your kids. But at the same time, I think the children also grow up knowing that the parents have certain responsibilities to fulfill, and it's also part of their maturing process.
It's part of their duty also, I mean, to the country in a sense that this is their sacrifice.
I don't think they put it in that way, but they know that the parents have duties and the parents need to work.
I have a fun fact based on my background check on Minister. So that within 30 days after your first child was born, you were actually posted to Indonesia for 2 years.
But of course, there are chances that we come back, and sometimes after the situation stabilizes, then they also can go and visit me.
Did you feel like you missed out? Like especially
more like how angry is your wife on a scale of 1 to 10?
So
how many times did she tell you to quit?
Sometimes you become almost a weekend father. So Friday, I used to take plane at Friday midnight, come back. Then Sunday midnight, I take a plane back.
Wow.
So it's like that, huh? Then it's like, where is the time for yourself? Which is what Andrew did.
Oh my.
Okay, thank you for watching today's episode of the Daily Ketchup, and thank you, Minister, for joining us here today and being very casual with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
so
comment down below all your thoughts from today's episode. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
I first saw you at NTUC. I think you were giving a speech. It really weirded me out.
Brother,
When y'all
Chun Sing.
brother Chun Sing, brother Sister Mary, I was like, what kind of cult?